Welcome back, everybody. We're going to have a very interesting conversation with an LA casting director, writer, producer, and host. Welcome to the program, Jaimie Beebe.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. As I kind of did my deep dive and have done my research on you, I see that you're very unlike any other casting director that I have ever met. You know, most casting directors are a little more reserved, they're a little more guarded. Some are even, very private people, and you love posting bikini pics. Um, but that type of kind of being unabashedly yourself hasn't stopped you from accomplishing all the things that you have. It hasn't stopped you from having 70 credits on your resume in terms of casting, working with the biggest names, having your own talk show, and a lot of other things that we'll touch upon. So what I am finding is that when some people say just be yourself, you're actually doing it and it's working and it's awesome.
Yeah, I fully believe in that. I don't want to, apologize for being who I am. I don't want to hide being who I am or anything like that. So, and if people, you can like it or not. I'm very professional when I'm working for the
Mhm.
most part. And I get my work done, and I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I think it's awesome because a lot of us really kind of, we try to have a certain image and we try to make sure that it's manufactured and manicured in certain ways. And it's interesting that as kids, when we're little kids, we don't care. We don't know any better and we're just being ourselves. When we're old, we don't care and we're just being ourselves. And this whole middle section, that's most of our lives, we are so worried about what others think of us that we get into, it gets into our way. So I'm very happy to see that you're able to do what you want to do and just be yourself. It's great.
Yep, that's exactly it. I really don't. I mean, I care obviously what people think about me, but I also think that, my life is great. I'm happy every day. I love
Yeah,
waking up every morning. I love what I do. I love
yeah.
my friends, my dogs. So, I think that like for me, social media is just kind of putting my personal happiness out there. And
Mhm.
I think people kind of see that. So yeah, and it is summertime, so there might be a few bikini photos.
And I'm sure that if somebody minds those, then that's their problem. Um,
They're
okay.
tasteful. They're tasteful. I'm at a pool or a beach
Yeah.
or
No, I don't disagree at all. And this is not me being facetious. I think so. They're very nice photos. They're photos of the outside. They're photos of the summer. They're photos of you enjoying your life, and that's great.
yeah.
Okay. So a lot of the casting directors kind of start out as actors, or they start out in a certain other part of the, business, so to speak. You started out by, following fish out of town and doing rainbow gatherings and getting your bachelor's in photography. Can you kind of
Wow, you did a lot of research on me.
two pages worth of stuff, and some things we're definitely not going to talk about because it's not relevant to you being a casting.
Oh
Um,
no.
but how did you kind of end up in casting? What happened there?
Um, I've always just been a really free spirit. I've been very impulsive through my life. Like if I see something that I think is going to be fun, then I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
And it's gotten me in trouble a few times, but usually it ends up really well. Um, Music has always played such a big part of my life. When I graduated high school, I'm a bit older than most people think. When I graduated high school back in the day, I wanted to follow the Grateful Dead, and unfortunately, it was the year that Jerry died. So that was no longer an option. So I went ahead and I did follow Fish for a while, and then after that, I settled down a little bit and I went to college. I got my bachelor's in photography and my master's in music management.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then I came out to LA to work in music management, which I did for like a split second and I didn't like it. So I've learned when I don't like something, I'm done. I just move right on.
Mhm.
And so I did real estate. I sold houses after that for a little while. And then I kind of jumped into production randomly. I got a job as head of production, and I had never even been on a set. So I had to, pretend that I knew what I was doing and learn it really quickly, which I did. I learned every part of it. I loved it. But it was, 20-hour days, and I was always the bad guy telling people they couldn't get the rate they wanted, or, like I always felt like I was the bad guy in production. Um, so when I left that job, I decided to step into casting because it was like the best part of it. It was the best job. I was making people happy. Everyone loves the casting director. Like it was like perfect for me. Um, it's really hard to step into scripted casting. So I started out in reality for a couple years. And it was fun. The people I worked with were awesome. Like it was like a family every day. I loved going to work. It was awesome. But I still was striving for the scripted side of things. So after a few years there, I mostly left reality and went into scripted. And I didn't necessarily do it how most people do it. I didn't work for other people. I didn't get a job as an assistant. I started out going to the universities and asking the students to hire me for their projects, so I could get experience and get things on my resume. And they did. They hired me, which is awesome. And, then when they started graduating, they kept me. And so we all just kind of grew as we went, and it worked out really well for me and hopefully for them. And I work with a lot of the same people over and over, so that's kind of how I jumped into scripted. And I still do a few reality shows here and there, like some good
Mhm.
ones.
Okay. What would be a good one? Since you brought that up.
I like fun, family friendly reality shows. I'll just leave it at
Yeah,
that.
that's
No teen mom stuff. Like it's not my thing.
let's back up for a second because I really want to know how you randomly get a job as a head producer.
Oh,
How
I was dating a guy who um, had done some things in entertainment when he was younger, and he decided that he wanted to start a production company. So he told me I could run it, so which is great.
okay.
Um, although neither of us really knew anything about that, so I learned for both of us, and then when it was time to move on, I did.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. And it very often happens where, people start their businesses and they don't know what they're talking about. They
Yeah.
don't know what goes into it. They have that urge that, hey, I can contribute in this way and this looks fun, let's do it. So it's great. Um, the other thing that I really dig is your ability to just decide on something, roll up your sleeves when you're wearing them, and go after things like the college approach. That's the same approach that I took, as I started acting because I knew that I had to get a reel, I had to get experience, I had to get to do different kind of roles because I view myself as a character actor. And the best way to do that was to go and do student films. And I loved it. And that has allowed me to continue growing. And I'm still with some of the same directors who are writing parts for me in their new films. It's a great way to build everything, including those relationships. So I'm very happy that you did it. My question is, how did you come up with that idea? Did you hear it from somebody, or you just said, "Okay, this makes sense. I'm going to go do that"?
Um, because I kind of threw every idea I had against the wall, and whatever stuck, I went with. I would cold call producers and be like, "Hey, will you hire me? I've never done casting, but I can do it. Like I know I can." So, and 99.9% of them said no because there's other casting directors that they would hire
Yeah.
that did have experience. So, I just brainstorming, and actually there was a producer that ended up hiring me randomly without really any experience, and I still work with him consistently to this day. He taught me everything. When he hired me, I didn't necessarily tell him. I didn't know exactly what I was doing. So, a few days into it, I had to fess up, and I was like, "Hey, so I don't know exactly everything."
Mhm.
And he was like, "Cool, I'll just teach you, and then we can work together forever." And I was like, "Perfect." And it worked out, and we're super tight. We're really good friends now, and I work for him all the time. So yeah, I mean, I saw what I wanted, and I threw everything I could against the wall until something stuck, and that was it.
Yeah, but you kept on trying. You kept on working. It wasn't like, well, I'm going to try this. It may not work out, and I'll go do something else. No, you
Yeah,
decided, and then you kept on, knocking on doors until some opened. I'm
literally.
really, yeah. I'm a big fan of that, and everybody who's watching, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's casting, acting, or any other profession. Nothing is going to happen until you set your mind and you put the intention, and then you put in the work. So
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
yeah.
Always a lot
Um,
of work.
it's very, very cool. And now that there is not a lot of work, and when COVID happened, looking at the things that you're doing right now, it's still in that same vein of you find a creative solution. So you're utilizing this time to go and look at people doing monologues, look at people doing self tapes, figuring it out and building up your list of people that you're going to call for future projects. And I
True.
think you have a ton of stuff in pre and post right now. How is that going on?
I've actually been really busy throughout the quarantine. Even
Mhm.
with casting, I had a lot of projects that were on hold, which is cool. It just gave us a little bit more time to dig deep and find, the right actors, the right talent for what we wanted. We don't know exactly when we're going to start filming again, but hopefully soon. Um, but yeah, I just kept busy. I watch self tapes in my free time. It's fun. I like to see new actors, people I normally wouldn't have time, to look at. I'll lay in bed in the morning for an hour and swipe through Instagram and look at new actors and stuff. I have my podcast. I I'm doing a reality show. I'm casting a reality show right now, because reality is still kind of up and running for the most part, especially the casting process. So, I'm glad that I can fall back on that, and I work with an awesome company, Metal Flowers Media, when I do reality casting, and they're such a great company to work for. So, I've
Hmm.
remained very busy and working on my house and hanging out with my friends.
That's awesome. And you have a dog, and I think I saw a picture of a cat somewhere as well. Do you have a cat too?
I have two dogs and a cat.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. There's
Easy,
definitely a
easy
cat.
dog. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You've again, you kind of touched upon casting different types of projects, whether now or just in general. You've cast music videos, you've cast shorts, you've cast features, you've cast web series. I wanted to, from your perspective, to kind of dive in a little bit and tell our audience how they're different and what you're looking for in a specific, genre, whether you're casting for a web series or you're casting for a music video.
Um, I mean, a lot of it depends on, the budget. The budget is
Right.
always kind of the number one thing, that it depends on. It depends on the content. I don't take content that I don't believe in or that I don't like. So, that way I can feel good about pushing a project, and telling people about it. But yeah, rate really depends a lot on things. For the bigger films, it's going to be offers. I don't want to waste people's time and um, get a bunch of self tapes and things like that. If I know that we're just offering to a certain name or a couple different names to see who sticks, um, with something like a web series or something smaller like that, a smaller budget, there's actually quite a bit of work that goes into that, because a lot with that I'm looking for maybe new talent that I don't know, um, not necessarily new actors, but talent I don't know, or talent that we haven't seen a lot, because sometimes the rate is a little bit lower. But as long as the content is good, I think that I can always find the right talent for it.
And do you cast, again, I've seen in different projects that you've had, I've seen some actors who are definitely SAG and I've seen some non-union. Do you cast more non-union versus SAG?
No, I mostly work with SAG actors. You know, in the past, especially starting out, I took a lot of non-union projects.
Mhm.
I I can't remember the last time I took a non-union project. If it was great, and the industry is always changing. But I definitely do believe in the union and what it stands for, and I think it's important to work with union actors.
Mhm. I'm non-union at the moment, and it's not because I don't want to join SAG. I love SAG, and I would love to. Just I haven't had the projects in order
Yeah.
to be able to join yet.
Well, and
Um,
it sometimes it takes a little while, and that's fine too. And you can also be, a non-union actor and be, put into a union film.
yeah,
Um, I don't take non-union projects. So
makes
there's
sense.
definitely times I work with non-union actors, but I don't take non-union projects.
Yeah, and Chicago is an interesting city because we have probably a lot more non-union than union work. So for those who are SAG, they have a chance to get bigger projects, but there are a lot less of them around. So it's
Yeah,
it's
it's a little different.
it's a weird mix. In LA where you are, I think it's mostly SAG, from what I understand. Um, okay, that's cool. And how does that, from music video perspective? Because I see breakdowns on Actors Access and other places for music videos. I haven't done any of them yet. So is it similar process in terms of what you're looking for, what you're casting, same kind of a SAG actor versus non-union?
Um, it is all across the board, I think,
Mhm.
for music videos. It just depends. A lot of times for that, it's a look that we're going for rather than their actual, acting or a name, like more of a look type thing. So sometimes I'll cast off photos and videos rather than self tapes because usually there's non-speaking, and um, we just need to have people there, while the singer is there.
Yeah, very cool. You've mentioned, and I've kind of again in reading up on you, you've mentioned that casting is a happy job. Um,
Yes.
Again, you're a bit different in that approach to most of the casting directors that I've spoken to, which work ridiculous hours, are stressed out, hungry and unhappy. Um, where do you draw the happiness, and how do you continue being happy throughout that process, which I imagine is similar for you too?
Um, I don't know. If someone's not happy in their job, they probably shouldn't do their job.
True.
I don't know about that. I'm just that's kind of my motto. If it doesn't make me happy, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm in my 40s, early 40s,
Mhm.
and I feel like I've tried so many things, and I've done so many things in my life that I'm just at a point where if it doesn't make me happy, I'm not going to do it.
Good.
And that's not saying like, obviously I still have to pay my bills and like do things like that don't necessarily make me happy. But in the long run, it's just important for me to wake up and be excited to start a new day. Um, and casting does that. I mean, it is a happy job. I'm making or helping dreams come. I'm not making dreams come true. I'm helping dreams come true. I love when I get to see an actor in an audition and I know they want it, and then lo and behold, they're perfect and they get the role. That's awesome. It's so exciting for me to just see that happen, like to see that experience for them, and the directors are happy, the producer, everyone's happy. So yeah, like I feel like my job is just making people happy all the time.
That's
So
awesome.
it makes me happy. Yeah.
That's a great approach to it. You pride yourself on being approachable and accessible. You jumped on this interview. I asked you on social media on Instagram, and you were kind enough to oblige. I appreciate that. So I see that part. I know that some of the people that I know who are in casting have a difficulty kind of finding the right line and the right tone between being professional and being friendly? Where do you kind of draw your line?
Um, it's weird. I knew a talent manager for a
Mhm.
long time that I always felt that he was so harsh with actors trying to get represented. They would call him, and I understand, people get however many calls a day, and you don't need
Yeah.
random calls. And I agree, like getting calls is kind of like okay, but he actors would call and ask about representation, and he would just be so mean on the phone to them, like, "How dare you call me in the middle of the day?" Well, why not? Like they're just trying to get ahead. They're trying to, ask a question. Are they going to call in the middle of the night? Like, I
Yeah.
would hear him on the phone and he was just so like evil to people. And so I told myself like I will never be like that, and when I was with this guy, this manager and an actor would call me, I would always give them at least a minute. Like it doesn't hurt anything to give them a minute and say, can you email me instead? Or because you also don't know, maybe they're just trying to get ahead. Maybe they are a great actor. Maybe they're starting out. I don't want to hurt anyone's dreams. I don't want to squash anything.
Mhm.
So I kind of just think like if someone comes to approach me, I'm going to do the best I can to do at least a little something. I mean, I don't have 80 hours a day to like, but
Yeah.
but I normally respond to all my emails and all my messages, or at least like try and look at them. I do, I get a lot of emails and messages from actors, but um, I try my best to at least do something, whatever I can, to give a tiny bit of advice. I don't have long hours that I can go do things. I normally don't like a lot of them. A lot of people, a lot of actors will call and or email. Oh, can I take you for coffee or a drink? And like that, I normally don't do because
Yeah.
you know I save that for my friends, but but no, I think that everyone deserves a minute, to if I can help, I will, that kind of thing. So I just always told myself I'd never be like that guy and be mean and like I just felt like he was killing people's dreams and it was so upsetting to me. I just
Uh,
don't ever want to do that.
yeah, and again, I'm not going to judge anybody, but I'm with you on that. That's not a cool thing to do. I remember, when Jean-Claude Van Damme was getting started, and he went to his first audition for a movie that ended up being Bloodsport, and that kind of launched him. Actually, I may be mistaken. It was even before that. It was No Retreat, No Surrender. Jean-Claude, if you're listening, I'm waiting for you to come onto the show. And he went there and he auditioned and he got it. And the producer said, I'm picking you not because you have done acting or you've done other things, but the last person who was similar to you that walked into my room, I declined. That was Arnold Schwarzenegger. So you never know, and the fact that you're giving somebody a chance, you have no idea, what that will do for that person, or potentially what that will do for you as a casting director, and the type of star that you get a chance to discover.
Well, and I mean, you just never know, but I just don't want to be like a negative person that would, tell somebody, oh, like, I'm not going to listen to you because you called me in the middle of the day. How did you get my number? I mean, my number's out there, I'm sure. Like, I don't prefer phone calls, I prefer emails, but I'm
Mhm.
also just not going to be mean about it. I'll just give you my email address.
Okay, that's nice. Please continue being this way as long as
Of
you can
course.
have your own ability to protect your own privacy and be some semblance of normalcy. But continue doing that. That's very nice of you. You worked with a lot of people. A lot of people that we know. Tay Diggs, who I love. John Cusack, who's from Chicago. Another person that I would love to have on my show and talk to him about Chicago acting. You worked with Bella Thorne, and you worked with Cameron Boyce, who I'm still upset that
Yeah.
he passed away. What working with the people who are, let's say, recognizable, because there are a lot of great actors that we may not have heard of as well. But what were your kind of takeaways that actors out there could utilize by you being around them and watching them?
What do you mean?
I'll give you an example, right? Kathy Rankin was on a show yesterday. She's a casting director. She did Frasier, 191 episodes, and seeing them work and seeing the actors and the type of process that they do, how clean they are, how they approach things. There were a lot of things that she was able to kind of glean and then share that information to actors so they can get better. So that question was more in that vein of by watching actors who are accomplished and who are really talented, what are some of the things that you've picked up that when you're running casting sessions and somebody's doing that, you're like, okay, I want to redirect you in this way and try that because I've seen it and it worked for them.
I think from one thing that I think is really important is getting the right representation.
Yeah.
I think it's hard. It's hard, and especially when you're starting out, it's really hard to get great representation. You're going to be searching and, you're not going to get answers. People aren't going to respond. That happens. But I think it's
Or
so important to get the right representation. When I am casting something, especially let's just say I'm casting a film. The first people I go to are my agents and managers that I know that I'm close with. They're going to get first dibs. Who do you have? Who do you have? Like that's who would be good for this, or because I work with, certain agents and managers all the time, which I think they're the best ones, of course. I'll automatically think of some of their clients, which is important. If you don't have representation, it's easy to, not get the best options, not be first in line. And I think that a lot of really super talented, amazing actors that are recognizable out there, obviously they all have amazing representation, and it's just really important for that. On a personal level, I think that professionalism speaks volumes. Being on set and being cool, that's so important.
yeah.
When I am looking at talent that I kind of know but don't really know, I'm not talking about big names or anything like that, of course. I'll often call their last couple producers and see how they were on set, because I don't want to put someone on set and they're like, this person is terrible. Like they need all this, they need all that. That's no fun for anybody. So I think professionalism, I just think having the right agents and managers are great. Don't be afraid to leave your agent or manager and get a new one if they're not working for you. Loyalty is amazing. Don't burn bridges. But, when you're growing as an actor, and you have a manager that maybe you've had for a while and they're cool, maybe you're friends, and that's really great, but they can't take you to the next level. Get out there and get yourself to the next level. I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm on my third agent because it's a feel and it's a relationship and it has to work for both sides. I'm glad you finally said something that I've been trying to get from casting directors and I've never gotten it. You were the first one, and I really, really appreciate it because it makes perfect sense to me. What I'm referring to is this. You said that the first people that you go to are the agents and managers that you work with that you like. You're not going and sending it out to everybody. I keep on asking that question, and what I hear is the normal answer of, well, we just send it out to all of the agents. BS. I don't think that that's how.
Did I release a secret or something?
No, but thank you for finally saying it because we do work with people that we trust. So if you already have a relationship with agents, why spend time? Because even through those agents, you're still going to get a bunch of submissions. You don't have time to sit through 20,000 actors because you sent that out to 1,500 agents. It's just not going to work that way. It doesn't make sense.
Well,
So,
I mean, I definitely, the breakdowns always go out,
right.
which is sent to all the agents and managers. And I do look through all the submissions that come in, but I'll always send a special email to agents and managers that I work often with.
Okay.
because I know how they work.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a phone call immediately back. I can be super honest, like, hey, this is really what the rate is. Like, we're not, if it's a lower budget thing, and I need, an actor that, let's say, the content has to do with saving animals. Let's say it's a movie about saving animals,
Okay.
and yeah, and I know an agent that has an actor who's super into animal activism, and maybe it's a little bit of a lower rate, or we can get to the rate. I can go to that agent or manager, and I can be like, hey, so I really think that your client's going to like this, because this movie is about saving animals, and this is what your client does all day. So it's just kind of like knowing your audience too, knowing who you're talking to, and being able to be just candid, like, this is what I'm looking for, type of thing. And and you like working with people that are your friends, and I have a lot of agent and manager friends. So yeah, I mean, I'll definitely always reach out to them first and make sure that I'll send them the breakdown, make sure they saw it, and see if somebody in my mind is one of their clients, or for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody does that.
I think so too. It just nobody admitted it
I
until you
hope
did.
so.
And by the way, in that made up example, I think it's a made up example that you just used with the saving animals. But
Yeah.
even in that example, there's a golden nugget there of when people, actors out there, you put information on social media about your life and what you're passionate about, you never know what that's going to do. Now, if you're very political, it may turn some people off. But if you're dealing with like saving animals, or you're very athletic and you're focusing on something else, casting directors obviously are paying attention to it.
I mean, for sure. And with social media, I follow tons and tons and tons of actors.
Mhm.
Um, and it's always interesting for me to see what they're into, and it's important. I mean, in a
Yeah.
in a way, like, I'm never going to look at it in a negative way. But I try to look at it in a positive way. Like, are they into a certain type of activism? Are they into, whatever? And then when I get a film where it's something to do with that, I'm definitely going to think about that actor right away. So I do think it's important to be yourself on social media.
Yeah.
In the same respect, there is a lot of, like for me personally, there's nothing negative on my social media ever. Every day is happy. Like, that's how kind of how I want to, that is
Yeah.
how I portray. I mean, that's how I feel, but it's kind of how I portray my life. But I think that people should keep social media in the place where it's light, but yet stand up for what you believe in and be who you are,
Mhm.
I guess.
No, it's true. I agree with you. And again, just personally, it's you have to put the right foot forward, and it has to be measured with what your audience kind of is. I have a lot of friends and family and relatives that if I post something, then I'll never hear the end of it. So maybe I want to, maybe that's what I stand for. I'm just not going to do it because it's way too much nonsense to deal with afterwards.
I mean, yeah, I stay out of controversial things,
Yeah.
unless, well, I guess I can't say that. I mean, if there's something I believe, I'm promoting wearing masks. I'm promoting Black Lives Matter. Like, there's certain things that I'm definitely, I guess that could be considered controversial. To me,
I don't
it's
think
common
so.
sense, but
It's not controversial. By the way, wear a mask, people. If you're
yeah,
not wearing a mask, wear a mask. Seriously.
just wear a
Um,
mask.
yeah. Oh, okay.
There's so many cute mask options too. Like, it's like adding to the whole thing. It's fun.
Yeah, can be. Yeah, it's a fashion. It's a fashion choice.
It is.
Um, so, last question before we kind of dive into what I call the casting director lightning round. Um,
Okay.
Riddle me this. How does a person with your background, somebody who is so happy, who is so kind of kind to others, loves people in general, loves horror and true crime. where does that kind of fit in? As I was doing my research, I couldn't put a, I couldn't quite figure out where that comes in and how that all balances out. Please enlighten me.
I love true crime. I love
Yeah.
everything true crime. Um, my business partner, Jake Deptula, he is amazing. I met him on the set of a Lifetime movie I was casting, and he was producing. And we both discovered how much we love true crime. I overheard him talking on set about something, and I happened to get him. I like to get gifts sometimes for the producers after the show, a little wrap thing.
Yeah.
So I got him a serial killer coloring book because I knew he'd love it, and everyone was like, "That's really weird," but he was stoked. He was so excited, and we kind of started this friendship there, and now we're business partners, but it
Mhm.
turned into a production company that, you know, COVID kind of derailed just a smidge. Um,
Yeah.
but we want to work on true crime all the time. Produce some true story films that we're looking at. We have a writer right now working on a couple things that we are doing. And we have our podcast, Strictly Stalking,
Yep.
which is about stalkers. Well, it's about survivors of stalking, really. We interview survivors. Um, it's interesting. I am really happy and bubbly, and my friends are. It's not necessarily happy, bubbly podcast that I host,
Right.
and my friends listen to it, and they're like, "How do you sit still and not laugh for that long?" I'm like, "I'm really into it. It's a very serious thing." I think that true crime is super trendy right now, which is cool. I've kind of just always been into it. It's fascinating. It's fascinating how the human mind works, I think. To see somebody so different from me, and how that works, and how, you know, serial killers and murderers, and I know it's so dark. Um, and people don't really expect that from me all the time.
Hmm.
But I think it's just so fascinating how everyone's mind works so differently. You can never figure out what someone's thinking. You can never really tell. You never really know anybody. I mean, do you even know yourself at the, who knows? So I think that's kind of why true crime fascinates me. And I do prefer to work in it. I love horror films. I love casting horror films. I have a horror film coming out that I cast called Stay Out of the Effing Attic. I don't know if I can cuss on here. Um,
Yeah. Stay out of the fucking
uh,
attic.
yes, it's coming out, I think, next month. I had another horror film that recently came out called Psychos and Socios. Um, and that was actually a fun one to cast. I don't know if you know the band NoFX,
No, I'm
like
not
a
familiar.
punk band.
Yep.
Um, El Jefe, Aaron Abeda from NoFX, he's a great actor, but he's been a musician for a long time. And I've, he's a friend of mine. So I went to him and I was like, "Hey, I've got a film. Do you want to be in it?" And he killed it. I think it's the first film
Listen.
that I put him in. I actually put him in a couple others too, but he killed it. It was great. Like put a musician in a horror film. Why not? So yeah, a little bit of outside the box. Horror. I feel like with horror, you can go outside of the box. There's a little more creativity. It's fun.
I
So yeah.
think I've never, I haven't been in a horror film. I think doing a horror film is probably a ton of fun. Um, I don't like, the genre itself. I'm not a fan because I don't like being scared and freaked out and go through that range of emotion. But I think doing it from the acting perspective, that would be fun.
I love everything about horror.
I got you.
I love being scared. I love it. I think it's fun. I mean, like movie scared,
Yeah,
not real
not
life scared.
yeah. I got you. It's yeah, so many questions that I can go into. Let's just move on because there was the whole sequel to Stay Out of the Fucking Attic, to Stay Out of the Fucking Basement.
Right?
That's the thing that freaks people out. But moving on. Let's get to our casting director lightning round. So, quick answers to these questions.
Uh-oh.
How many seconds do you need to see off somebody's submission to know, if they're moving forward or going bye bye?
Oh, well, if it's a self-tape, if it's a no, it's a couple of seconds, I can tell.
Hmm.
If it's a maybe or a yes, if it's not an absolute no, I'll watch the whole thing.
Oh, okay, cool. Preferred self-tape background.
Oh, geez, I don't care. I think that all I need is like I need your acting. I need just to see the tape. Like it doesn't have to be super professional. Don't
Right.
waste a ton of money on things. Like I'm a believer in like if you can do it, I'll see it. No, I don't need like your roommate naked and walking around in the background. Just any wall, anything. Use your cell phone. You don't need fancy things. I, I don't. I hate when I see people like spending money needlessly. It's like make it look cool. If it can look as cool as you want and cool, then that's great. But if you don't have the whatever it is that we're looking for, then it doesn't make a difference.
Makes sense. Reason why I ask, and I like when I'm conducting interviews, I always like to ask very specific questions to the person. But these ones I have a lot of fun with, and I think it's interesting for the audience because every casting director that I have on are completely different in their answers,
Oh
and
no.
that is awesome because it shows people the reality. And when you're worried about what is the color background I should put up, think that one of them said that they hate blue, the other one only wants blue. Some hate any light background. Kathy wants a pure white background. That's what we discovered yesterday. Some of them want gray like you have in the back that I was using. So it
Oh
all
my gosh, that's so much to learn. How would actors even like how are you gonna know everything? Sorry,
and
phone.
no
How
worries.
would you even know everything? Like,
They shouldn't, and that's the whole thing. Just do what you were saying is, whatever your background, if there's enough light, if you can do it, if it's not too busy, like
yeah.
this is
I mean,
not
I definitely, if you're gonna invest in anything, get the right lighting so we can see you. Like, that's the most important thing.
makes sense.
Um, and I do understand from that perspective, where if every single self tape that came in looked uniform,
Yeah,
it helps with the directors. It's easier. Um, But that's a lot. That's a lot to ask an actor for a self tape that if they're not right for it, you're only going to watch 3 seconds of it.
I know.
That's not fair.
To me, it's silly. Dress for the part or wear generic clothing.
Dress for the part. It's fun. But
Okay.
again, don't go buy a bunch of stuff. Like, don't make too, like, the most important thing is your acting ability and if you're right for the part. But if
Yeah,
you're like, oh, I have a cowboy hat and I'm playing cowboy and there's a cowboy hat in my closet, put the cowboy hat on. That's great. It's cool. Like, for sure, play the part. It's fun. Fun for everyone.
agreed. Hold sides or be off book.
I would like off book. It's preferred. But there's also been times where I've given actors zero lead time and asked for self tape. Um, not on purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, off book would be if you can, let's try off book.
Mhm. My personal preference is always off book. I find holding sides actually throws me off because it somehow feels like I have to look down. So I prefer off book so I can just play. Accent or no accent, and with that I mean dialect as well.
Um, well, I think it depends on the part. Do you mean if the part has an accent?
If the part doesn't say it, if the part doesn't say it, with the person, if they feel like it, they should play it with an accent or a dialect, should they throw that in? Or as a casting director is saying, okay, if I didn't ask you for it, don't do it.
For me personally, I think go for it. There was a movie I cast called 420,
Okay.
and a girl on that we ended up casting. She was hilarious, and she had this crazy accent out of nowhere, and I was like, that can't be her real accent. And there was no accent in the script. She just felt it and went for it, and we ended up picking her because like it showed her personality. It was out of the box. It was cool. So I mean, I think you never know. And you know what? You're not going to get everything that you auditioned for anyway. So if you're feeling it, then go for it.
Agreed. So far, you've answered all of these questions the way that I want the casting directors to answer them. So thank you. Risk it or play it safe. I'm not sure I even have to ask that question of you. I think I know which way you're leaning.
I mean, risk it. I always do. You
Yep.
only live once, you know?
Yeah. In the Zoom audition, right? Not in the self-tape, but in the Zoom audition, which, kind of is similar to what we're doing right now, even though it's not Zoom. Zoom is not a sponsor. Where would the eyes go? Where do you prefer for the eyes to go? Is it straight to camera? Because if I'm looking at you, my eyes, instead of like this, my eyes would be right there. So
Right.
where do you want the eyes? Because it's a weird thing right now.
It is a weird thing. I think I mean, are you saying like during a Zoom audition or just chatting?
During the audition itself.
It depends on the role. Like if you're supposed to be looking over here, talking to somebody, but also you can ask too. I
Okay.
mean, or maybe I guess the other casting directors aren't so approachable. I'd rather have people like don't ask a million questions for an audition, but like if it's something that you need to set yourself up or psych yourself like, to get it how you want it, then yeah, just ask.
I think again, some things are pertinent. Some things of, when you walk in and you say, well, how would you like this? That's not a good question, but where do you want my
A little
eyes?
more specific questions are better.
So then what would be that, one thing that actors or some actor did in an audition that drove you nuts?
Oh no, that drove me nuts.
Yeah, you're all about positivity. You're all about everything is great. So what would be the thing in an audition of like, okay, don't do that,
You
or it
know,
happened and I hated it.
I have had I've had actors say inappropriate things,
Mm,
um, which I understand in the sense that sometimes people are nervous. They say like stupid things or whatever, but like just like don't hit on the casting director. Like don't like say like just don't say weird things. Like
mm,
when you walk into a room, it's about you. It's not about anybody else in the room. So like I don't need a compliment. I don't need anything. Like I try to be like out of the way in a
mm,
room because it has nothing to do with me. The room is yours. When the actor walks in, the room is yours. I do not want anything to do with me. I don't want to, you know, mess you up or take you out of your game at all. Like be confident, do your thing. So I mean, I think that yeah, the worst thing that you can do is make it less about you. Like no compliments, no none of that stuff.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's very useful advice. All right. Last question. And this is not in the lightning round. This is more just for you.
Oh, okay.
So far in your young life, you've lived a very full life. As a matter of fact, that you probably have lived many of them already. So if you were talking to a younger version of yourself, you pick the age, and you had a chance to give just one advice, what would that advice be?
Oh, stay single.
Okay. No, there's no right or wrong answer. That's
uh, I mean, I think that women, young women, feel the need to be someone's girlfriend, be someone's fiance, be someone's wife. I think that it way too many times overshadows what you can really do as a woman. Um, and I think that I've let that overshadow me in my life a few times. And so, yeah, I think like now that I'm older, I think, I'm more in a position where if I was looking to actually be in a relationship at this point, I would. But as my younger self, I would tell myself to just stay single and hang out with my friends and my dogs and not worry about boyfriends and things because it kind of, it can take you off your game a little bit. It changes your course, makes the path a little longer sometimes. It's if you're not with the right person,
right.
obviously.
That's
Obviously,
true.
I haven't been with the right people, so
Point
just
point
kidding.
well taken. Um, okay. Well, Listen, it's been a fascinating interview. I really appreciate how you go about living your life and
Thank you.
accomplishing what you want to accomplish. It's something people should emulate and really take notice of. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great. Super fun.
My pleasure. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. Yet another fun interview with another casting director. I know we do a lot of actors, but we throw in everybody because everybody is playing in this wonderful, playground of ours of the world of entertainment. We all love acting, and thank you for tuning in.